Have you ever looked at an economic graph, perhaps with lines sloping downwards, and wondered what fundamental forces create that specific shape? Many economic relationships are depicted this way, and understanding their underlying mechanics is key to unlocking deeper insights into how our economies function. The aggregate demand curve, which illustrates the total quantity of goods and services demanded at different price levels in an economy, slopes downward primarily because of three interconnected effects: the wealth effect, the interest rate effect, and the exchange rate effect. Each of these mechanisms describes how changes in the overall price level influence the quantity of real, gross domestic product demanded. First, let us consider the wealth effect, also known as the real balances effect. When the overall price level in an economy falls, the real value of the money and financial assets people already hold increases. This means that with the same nominal amount of money, consumers can now purchase more goods and services, feeling wealthier and therefore increasing their consumption spending. Conversely, a rise in the price level diminishes the real value of money, making people feel poorer and reducing their consumption. Next, we have the interest rate effect. A lower price level means that households and firms need to hold less money to finance their purchases. This reduces the demand for money, leading to a decrease in interest rates in financial markets. Lower interest rates, in turn, encourage businesses to invest more in capital goods and incentivize consumers to borrow and spend more on durable goods, boosting the quantity of goods and services demanded. An increase in the price level works in the opposite direction, raising interest rates and decreasing investment and consumption. Finally, the exchange rate effect contributes to the downward slope. When a falling price level leads to lower interest rates, it makes domestic financial assets less attractive to foreign investors compared to assets in other countries. This decreased demand for domestic assets causes the domestic currency to depreciate in value. A weaker domestic currency makes domestically produced goods and services cheaper for foreign buyers, and makes foreign goods more expensive for domestic buyers. The result is an increase in net exports, adding to the total quantity of aggregate demand. The reverse happens with a rising price level. To truly grasp these effects, remember that aggregate demand represents the sum of consumption, investment, government purchases, and net exports. The crucial insight is that while the individual demand curve for a single good relies on the substitution and income effects, these do not apply to aggregate demand. Instead, macroeconomists use these three distinct macroeconomic effects to explain the inverse relationship between the economy-wide price level and the total quantity of output demanded. Understanding the derivation of the aggregate demand curve slope is fundamental because it provides a critical tool for analyzing how macroeconomic policies and external shocks impact the overall economy. By seeing how price level changes affect wealth, interest rates, and exchange rates, you gain a clearer picture of how consumption, investment, and net exports respond, ultimately influencing economic stability and growth.